The galaxy was quiet, but not peaceful. In the far reaches of space, fleets of the Zalorian Empire moved like shadows across the stars. For centuries, their warships ruled every system they entered. Entire civilizations had fallen before their power. To the Zalorians, war was not just survival, it was tradition. Admiral Vaynar stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive vessel called the Eternal Spear. Its dark metal hull reflected the glow of nearby suns, and its weapon batteries stretched for kilometers. Around it, thousands of ships waited in formation, ready to strike. Vaynar smiled as he looked at the fleet reports. No empire could match their numbers. No species could match their weapons. Their scientists had built engines that crossed systems in days, and cannons that could burn continents in seconds. "This war will be short," Vaynar declared. His voice carried across the command deck. "Another weak race has risen, but they will fall as all the others have. Nothing in this galaxy can stand against the Empire." The officers around him nodded. They believed his words. They had seen it many times before. But somewhere, hidden in the dark corners of space, rumors began to grow. It started with a single scout ship. Weeks earlier, one of the Empire's patrols had vanished. No wreckage was found. No distress signal. Just silence. Later, another scout disappeared near the same region. Some whispered about raiders, others about a strange species rising in secret. When reports finally arrived, they were confusing. Strange ships had been spotted near the border. Small, fast vessels with designs no one had seen before. Their hulls looked weak, their size unimpressive, but they fought differently. They did not attack with brute force. They used speed, precision, and strange weapons that left no survivors. At first, the High Council ignored these rumors. "Just border rebels," they said. "Nothing important." But the whispers kept spreading. On merchant stations, traders spoke of ghost fleets appearing and vanishing without warning. On military outposts, frightened soldiers told stories of entire squadrons disappearing in battle. And on the bridge of the Eternal Spear, Admiral Vaynar received one troubling report after another. Still, his pride refused to break. "Lies," he growled. "No fleet can match ours." The younger officers were less confident. They exchanged nervous glances but dared not speak. For them, the stories carried weight. They remembered the names whispered in secret. Humans. Few had seen them, but those who did told chilling tales. Humans were not the largest race. They were not the strongest. Their ships looked fragile compared to the Empire's war machines. But they fought with something different, something no one could measure. "They do not fight for conquest," one frightened soldier had said. "They fight because they must. They fight because they refuse to kneel." The word spread like fire. Some called it nonsense. Others laughed at the idea. How could such a small species stand against the mighty Zalorians? But the rumors did not die. In the deep void, more battles were reported. More fleets vanished. Always the same name appeared: humanity. Finally, one counselor demanded answers. "If these humans exist," he said during a heated meeting, "then we must crush them now, before their legend grows." And so the order was given. Admiral Vaynar's fleet was dispatched to the border where the strange sightings had occurred. Thousands of ships gathered like a storm, their weapons charged, their engines burning bright. Soldiers cheered, certain of an easy victory. But not all of them were so sure. On one of the smaller destroyers, a young officer named Kale listened quietly as his crew argued. Some laughed at the rumors, others spoke in hushed tones about the humans. Kale said nothing, but in his heart he felt uneasy. He remembered his father's words: "Pride blinds the strong. The moment you believe no one can defeat you, that is when your defeat begins." The fleet moved through the void, confident, arrogant, unstoppable. To them, this was just another war, just another weak species to burn into dust. But somewhere beyond the stars, hidden from their eyes, humanity was waiting, watching, preparing. And soon, the galaxy would learn a truth that no one believed possible. The Zalorian fleet was not invincible. The Zalorian fleet had reached the edge of the human territory. Thousands of massive ships floated in formation, their dark metal gleaming under distant suns. Admiral Vaynar's confidence was unshaken. To him, this was another easy victory. "Prepare to engage," Vaynar commanded. "These humans will fall like all the others." On the bridge of the Eternal Spear, the officers nodded. Their weapons systems hummed, ready to fire. Sensors scanned the void, searching for the small human ships the scouts had reported. And then they appeared. At first, they were almost invisible. Tiny blips on the sensors, far too small to matter. But then, they moved and moved like nothing the Zalorians had ever seen. Their formations were strange, shifting constantly, weaving through the vast gaps between the massive alien ships. "They're maneuvering too fast," one officer whispered. Vaynar laughed. "They're small. Speed means nothing against our firepower." But the humans were not just fast, they were precise. The first human ship fired. A single shot, but it struck true. One of the Zalorian destroyers exploded from within, tearing apart like a paper model. No warning, no chance to react. The bridge fell silent. They destroyed a destroyer with one shot?" a young officer stammered. "Yes," Vaynar said through gritted teeth. "And they will all fall like this." But as the battle began, it became clear. Humans were not like any other species the Zalorians had faced. Their ships were smaller, yes, and seemingly fragile, but they fought with intelligence. They attacked weak points, avoided the strongest weapons, and vanished before retaliation. Another Zalorian cruiser tried to engage, only to be surrounded by 3 human vessels. Before it could fire, the humans struck again, disabling its engines and leaving it drifting. "Impossible!" Vaynar shouted. "How can such small ships cause such damage?" On the human side, Captain Elena Kane watched her fleet through the main screen of the Resolute. Every move was calculated. Her crew worked in perfect harmony, communicating silently through encrypted channels. "These positions are too easy," Elena said. "Focus fire on their engines, keep moving. Don't let them predict us." Her ships darted through space like silver arrows. They struck where it hurt most, then vanished into the darkness. The Zalorians fired blindly, but their shots rarely found a target. On the Eternal Spear, panic was beginning to spread. Officers whispered in corners, questioning the strategy. "How can this be happening? They are supposed to be weak." Vaynar's pride was his shield. He could not admit defeat. "They are clever," he growled, "but cleverness will not save them." Another wave of human ships struck. A cruiser's hull cracked under their assault, fires spreading rapidly. Vaynar clenched his fists. This was not a minor setback, it was a warning. And then the humans sent a message. It was simple, clear, direct. "We do not wish for war, but if you threaten the innocent, we will fight to the last." The message echoed in the hearts of the Zalorian officers. Many felt fear for the first time. This was not a species fighting for glory or conquest. They were fighting for survival, for something greater. Vaynar's anger burned hotter than fear. "Destroy them all," he roared. "Leave nothing alive." But the humans did not panic. They moved faster, striking again and again. By the end of the first engagement, several of the largest Zalorian warships had been crippled. The once confident fleet now faced the shocking truth. These humans were not just capable, they were extraordinary. "Report," Vaynar barked. "Admiral, they are not retreating. They are advancing," a terrified officer said. "And they are adapting to our tactics." Vaynar stared at the screen. His confidence wavered, but he would not show it. "Then we adapt faster," he said. "Bring every ship into formation. Do not let them outmaneuver us." But deep down, a question began to form, quiet and unwelcome. Could it be that these humans are the first fleet that can truly challenge the Zalorians? The first contact had been made. And for the Zalorian Empire, the battle had begun in a way they never expected. The Zalorian fleet had never faced anything like this. In the weeks since their first engagement with humanity, whispers of fear had spread through every level of the Empire. Soldiers who once laughed at the idea of humans were now quiet in the mess halls, reluctant to speak. Admiral Vaynar paced on the bridge of the Eternal Spear. his massive hands clenched into fists. Reports continued to arrive. More of their largest warships had been destroyed or disabled. Every battle seemed to favor the humans, though their fleet was smaller and their weapons simpler. "They are everywhere," a junior officer said, pointing at the glowing dots on the screen. "We cannot predict where they will strike next." Vaynar slammed his fist on the console. "Impossible! They cannot be everywhere. How do they fight like this?" The human strategy was simple yet brilliant. They avoided the strongest weapons, attacked weak points, and coordinated in ways the Zalorians had never seen. Each strike seemed to learn from the last. Every engagement left a lasting mark on the Empire's pride. On distant stations, news of human victories spread like wildfire. Traders and civilians whispered stories of entire fleets being destroyed by these tiny human ships. Soldiers who survived battles returned with pale faces, telling tales that seemed impossible. "They fight with their minds," one young officer whispered, "not just with weapons." Within the Zalorian ranks, fear began to grow. High-ranking commanders started doubting their tactics, their leaders, even their own abilities. Some suggested retreating, but pride and tradition prevented them. To admit weakness was unthinkable for the Zalorian Empire. Meanwhile, humanity's fleet continued its advance. Captain Elena Kane studied the Zalorian movements carefully, predicting their reactions. She had not yet struck their main fleet directly, but each skirmish had weakened them, spreading confusion and fear. "Their arrogance is their weakness," she said to her officers. "They believe no one can match them. That makes them predictable." In the Imperial High Council, debates grew heated. Some leaders demanded new strategies, new weapons, and faster attacks. Others warned that the humans were unlike any foe they had faced. "They are not just clever," one counselor said. "They are relentless. They do not fear us, and they do not retreat." The word spread among the Zalorians: humans are different, not just in strength or size, but in determination. Every officer who faced them realized that human courage was unlike anything they had ever seen. Back on the battlefield, humans continued to strike unexpectedly. A group of small human ships appeared near the outer flank of the Zalorian fleet. They attacked lightly defended stations, crippling supply lines and forcing the Empire to divert resources. Each success spread fear deeper into the ranks. Even Vaynar, who had always been confident, felt a chill in his heart. Pride still kept him upright, but for the first time, he wondered if they had underestimated humanity. One night, aboard his flagship, he looked out into the void of space. The stars seemed darker, the silence heavier. Everywhere he looked, he imagined human ships hiding, waiting to strike. And he knew the rumors were true. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was a force unlike any the Zalorians had faced before. The fear was no longer quiet. It had begun to spread openly. Officers argued over tactics, soldiers hesitated in battle, and the Empire itself started to tremble. And yet, despite the fear, humanity pressed on, not to conquer, not to destroy, but to survive. The galaxy was changing. The Zalorian Empire had always been the greatest power, unstoppable and invincible. But now doubt had entered their hearts. Pride was faltering, and fear was spreading like wildfire. The first shock of battle was over, but the real war was only beginning. The Zalorian fleet had suffered more losses than anyone had imagined. The once mighty warships floated damaged in the cold void, their engines sputtering, their weapon systems offline. Fear had spread through the ranks, and morale was at an all-time low. Admiral Vaynar stood on the bridge of the Eternal Spear, staring at the vast expanse of space. His pride refused to yield, but the numbers were undeniable. Human ships had crippled entire squadrons. His confidence was fading, replaced by frustration and anger. "They are too clever," a senior officer admitted. "We cannot predict them." Vaynar shook his head violently. "No, there must be a way. We have the largest fleet in history. They cannot beat us." But as he spoke, sensors picked up another human strike group. Smaller than before, but moving with deadly precision. They targeted supply ships first, cutting off vital resources. then struck the battle-damaged warships. The first wave hit hard. One of the largest Zalorian cruisers erupted in a brilliant explosion. Flames spread across its hull, sending debris drifting into the void. Panic spread among the crews. Officers scrambled to reorganize, but the humans were already gone, vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. Vaynar's fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Focus fire," he roared. "Do not let them escape." But the humans had already adapted. Captain Elena Kane watched from the Resolute, her face calm and determined. She had studied the Zalorian tactics for weeks. Every movement the aliens made, every strategy they tried, she anticipated. "Strike in patterns they do not expect," she ordered. "Split their formations. Target engines, then shields. Move fast, then vanish. Keep them off balance." And it worked. For hours, the humans danced around the massive Zalorian fleet, striking critical points and vanishing before retaliation. Several large warships were left crippled, their weapons silent, their crew panicked. The aliens had power, yes, but humanity had intelligence and coordination. The turning point came when humans revealed a hidden technology the Zalorians had never seen. Stealth drones capable of bypassing shields and disabling engines from within. Entire battleships were left drifting, unable to fight. "Impossible!" Vaynar shouted. "These humans, how can they have such technology? They are evolving," a junior officer whispered, fear in his voice. "They learn faster than we can fight." The High Council on the Zalorian homeworld watched the live battle feed in shock. Their pride was cracking. The empire that had ruled countless systems was now struggling to survive. On the battlefield, human ships regrouped and pressed the attack. Every maneuver was precise, every strike calculated. Even when the Zalorian fleet attempted a massive counterattack, humans avoided it with clever evasions and small, decisive strikes. By nightfall, several of the largest Zalorian warships were destroyed or drifting helplessly. The once unshakable fleet had been broken into pieces, and the remaining ships were forced to retreat temporarily. Vaynar stared at the damage reports, his face pale. Pride and anger battled inside him. He refused to admit defeat, but deep down he knew the humans had changed the game. For the first time in history, the Zalorians faced an enemy that could not be beaten by size or strength alone. "They are not just clever," he muttered. "They are unstoppable." In the dark void of space, humanity's small fleet regrouped. They had not lost a single ship, and the Zalorian fleet had been shaken to its core. Captain Elena Kane looked at her officers. "This is just the beginning," she said. "The galaxy will remember today, but we cannot stop. Not yet. They will recover, and we must be ready for them." The humans had turned the tide. The Empire had suffered a shock it could not ignore. The Zalorian pride was wounded, and fear was spreading faster than ever. The war was no longer just a battle, it was a revelation. Humanity was a force unlike any the galaxy had seen. And the turning point had come. The Zalorian High Council convened in their grand chamber, a massive hall floating above the capital city. Holographic displays of the battlefield flickered around them. Ships drifted helplessly in the void, their hulls scarred, engines silent. The councilors' faces were pale with disbelief and fear. For the first time in history, the unchallenged might of the Zalorian Empire had been broken. And the culprit was a race they had dismissed, humans. Counselor Tharvin, a veteran of countless wars, slammed his clawed hand on the table. "We cannot continue like this. Entire fleets have been destroyed. Our soldiers are terrified. We are losing." Another counselor, Eldra, raised a trembling hand. "We underestimated them," she said quietly. "They are not like other species. They fight with intelligence, coordination, and courage we have never seen." Debates raged. Some argued for an all-out assault to crush the humans before they grew stronger. Others warned that attacking again without strategy would destroy even more of their fleet. Pride clashed with fear, tradition clashed with reality. Admiral Vaynar was summoned to the council. He walked into the chamber, his massive frame casting shadows on the floor. His pride had not left him, but even he could see the cracks in the Empire's resolve. "They fight like nothing we have faced before," Vaynar said. "We cannot underestimate them. Our fleets are strong, but their tactics, their speed, their cunning. It is unlike anything I have ever seen." Eldra looked at him sharply. "So what do you propose?" Vaynar's voice was hard, his pride still burning. "We strike again. We will use every ship, every weapon, every resource. We will not allow these humans to survive. They may be clever, but they are still only one race. We are the Empire." Counselor Tharvin shook his head. "You speak with pride, Admiral, but we have already lost too much. Our soldiers fear them. Our fleets are shattered. Do you truly believe victory is certain?" Vaynar paused, staring at the holomap of the battlefield. For the first time, doubt entered his mind, but he would not show it. "Victory is not certain," he admitted quietly, "but surrender is not an option." Meanwhile, humanity had not paused. Captain Elena Kane watched her fleet move across the void. Each strike, each maneuver had weakened the Zalorians further. She knew the Empire would not give up easily. "They will come again," she said, "and we must be ready. But we do not fight for conquest. We fight for survival and for freedom." Back on the Zalorian battlefield, scattered reports confirmed what everyone feared. Humans were not slowing down. Every engagement left more of their ships intact, more of the enemy fleet crippled. The humans had shown mercy to civilians, avoided unnecessary destruction. Yet their power in battle was undeniable. The Council reached a tentative conclusion. The Empire must survive, but their pride could not blind them. They ordered a partial retreat to regroup, repair, and rethink their strategy. Some fleets would be rebuilt, new tactics devised. But deep down, every counselor knew the truth. They had underestimated humans. Fear had taken root, but so had respect. The humans had shown that they were more than a species. They were a force that refused to bow, refused to surrender, and refused to be defeated. Admiral Vaynar returned to his flagship, silent. The battlefield outside was quiet for now, but the echo of human victories lingered in every corner of the Empire. Pride and tradition would not allow surrender, but the Empire's future had changed forever. And somewhere, Captain Elena Kane sent a simple, clear message into the void. "We did not start this war, but we will finish it." The judgment was made. The Zalorian Empire had been forced to face a truth they had never expected. Humanity was not just another species. Humanity was different. Humanity would not be ignored. And the galaxy would remember this day forever. The battlefield was quiet. Smoke and debris floated through the void like ghosts of what had once been the mighty Zalorian fleet. The humans had not attacked recklessly, but their victories were undeniable. Every battle had left a mark, not just on ships, but on the pride of an empire that had ruled for centuries. Captain Elena Kane stood on the bridge of the Resolute, looking out at the stars. Her fleet was intact, her crew weary but unbroken. They had not sought glory, but survival. And now, the galaxy was beginning to notice the strength of humanity. "We did what we had to do," she said softly. "But this is only the beginning." Across the Empire, reports of human victories spread like wildfire. On distant planets, soldiers whispered their names in fear, and civilians told tales of a species that refused to bow. Entire fleets had been humbled, not by numbers or brute force, but by courage, intelligence, and determination. Even Admiral Vaynar, once proud and unshakable, reflected on the battles. He had faced humans up close and lived to tell the tale, but his pride had been wounded. He realized that humans were unlike any enemy he had ever known. They fought with heart, with unity, and with a refusal to give up. "They are not just strong," Vaynar said to a junior officer. "They are something greater. They fight because they must, and that makes them unstoppable." The Zalorian Empire began to rebuild, but the legacy of humanity was already written. Rumors of their courage and skill spread to every corner of the galaxy. Other species watched, some in awe, some in fear. Everywhere, the message was clear: no fleet could match humanity. Not because humans were the largest or strongest, but because they never surrendered. Back on the human flagship, Captain Kane received a transmission from the Council of Allies who had watched the war from afar. They spoke of honor and admiration, of a species that had risen against impossible odds and prevailed. Humanity had not sought to dominate, but in showing its strength, it had earned respect. Elena looked at her crew. They were tired, yet proud. Every human on every ship had played a role. Together, they had changed the galaxy's understanding of power. In the silent depths of space, the stars seemed brighter. The humans had proven a truth that no empire could ignore. That courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the greatest might. And so the galaxy whispered a new legend, one that would be told for generations. No fleet can match humanity. The humans had entered the battlefield, and in doing so they had left a legacy. A legacy not of conquest, but of hope. Not of fear, but of resilience. Not of destruction, but of the strength that comes from never giving up. The Zalorian Empire had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Kane turned to her crew one last time. "This is our legacy," she said, "and it is only the beginning." The stars stretched endlessly before them, and humanity sailed onward, unbowed, undefeated, and unstoppable.